Hello, hello, hello. And we seem to be in the same house, Grace.
We are in
This
different
is
continents in
interesting.
the same house.
So I think we are housemates or we're neighbors.
Uh,
So yes, a beautiful, beautiful afternoon right here coming to you live. This is Miss Kim from the Happiness Tribe and coming to you live from my beautiful city that is not too hot, not too cold. So it's actually a very good time to be in Botswana. I could call it one of the best weathers or seasons that we have. And happy to see we've been joined by the main guest of the day. She just arrived. You know, always guests have to come a little bit late. VIPs come a little bit late. But let me start, do the honor to Miss Grace. Take the mic, introduce yourself, and then we have Miss Judith who will introduce the topic and introduce herself. Thank you.
awesome. Welcome, welcome everybody. While it's almost evening or afternoon in Botswana, over here it's still early morning in the US, and I am coming to you from Texas, the big state where they say everything is big here. That's what they are known for. And welcome again. And I will go ahead and pass on the mic to Yodit.
Thank you, Miss Grace, and hello, Miss Kim, and thank you for the kind introduction. I do apologize. I'm not quite sure what happened, but at least I'm here with a very plain background. But it's all good. I am sitting in a very warm Gaborone, Botswana in Southern Africa, and excited to be back. I haven't been on this podcast for, my gosh, it's been at least a month, if not more. So excited to be back and back with my dear Happiness Tribe, and excited about the conversation that we're about to have this afternoon. Thank you, Miss Kim. Should I continue?
Yes, please,
Okay.
you may.
Tell us about
Actually,
Okay.
the topic.
All right. No, thank you. And welcome to all our guests and listeners. Thank you for joining us this afternoon if you're in Southern Africa. And good morning if you're in the US like Miss Grace. We are continuing to talk about joy as medicine. This was a subject that my sisters here explored last week. And I listened to the podcast and was excited about what they were discussing, and appreciated some of the lessons, some of the practices that they've put in place in their lives, to ensure that happiness is not something that's just they stumble upon, but something that they consistently strive for. And, getting to the point where it becomes very natural to be in a continuous state of happiness. And that conversation included our fellow tribe member, Dr. Gladys, who was also able to bring in the scientific elements in the conversation. What happens when you feel happy, etc. So today I thought maybe we could focus a little bit more, but on happiness itself, the spirit of happiness. What does it mean to be happy? And what is it that we do to ensure that that is our default, to stay away from the negative, to stay away from those things that keep us down, but to appreciate and embrace a state of happiness consistently. So that's what we'll be talking about today. And just a reminder for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, or those of you who sort of knew about us, um, is that we are part of the Happiness Tribe. There are a few of us who are not here today. Selassie, who sits in Ghana, Dr. Gladys, who sits in Georgia in the US, and our Miss Paula, who's in Belize. And the Happiness Tribe was created mainly out of a need, a desire to spread happiness, to try and provide everyone with an opportunity to think about what it means to be happy, but also focusing in on, issues that matter, our health, as an example, something that we need to continue to nurture. And speaking of health, one of the things that we are currently addressing as the tribe is the health of one of our dear members, Miss Paula, who's not with us today and won't be with us for what we hope won't be too long, but because she is addressing health issues. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Miss Kim will speak to that and some of the things that we hope to be doing to support Miss Paula. So that's just a short introduction into the Happiness Tribe. And for those of you who are hearing about us for the first time, please do look for our previous podcasts. They should be available on YouTube. And I'm not sure if they're available on LinkedIn, but Miss Kim will speak to that. So what I wanted us to focus on today is the spirit of happiness. The spirit of happiness, meaning a deep sense of contentment. Is that an English word? How do you consistently feel happy? And something that you build and you nurture, very selfishly, because it feels better to be happy than anything else. And so I wanted to ask a few questions of Miss Grace and Miss Kim, both of whom expressed, like I said, they did share some of the things that they do in order to maintain their state of happiness. So I've taken this basically, if you put spirit of happiness into Google, it automatically goes into AI and it brings up a whole bunch of things that it interprets as what is happiness and what is the spirit of happiness. And one of the first things that it states is that happiness is a state of being. It's not a place that you want to arrive at. It's how you are almost all of the time. Of course, knowing that there are times when we cannot feel happy because everybody goes through something that makes them sad. So thinking about that, it's a state of being and it's not a destination. I'd like to ask, how do you ensure that you live in the moment? What are the little things or big things that you do to ensure that you are continuously and consistently feeling a sense of happiness and fulfillment? I'm throwing it out there. Whoever wants to jump in first, please go for it.
Go for it, Ms. Kim.
I love this moment when we start looking at each other like, okay, who's ready for that?
I can go if you want. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful question, and thank you very much, Miss Judith. And it's something that maybe with time, most of us have learned to cultivate with time, because as we know it, it's life. There will always be something that just gets you off the track, either upsets you or just gets your mood switched off. And personally, what I've done to make sure that I stay in the moment, that I always cultivate happiness, is by working on my tools, what I call my tools. So, as we know it, we always have to make sure that we seek joy from ourselves and not to make it anyone's responsibility to make us happy. And sometimes, if we're not careful, even the tiny, tiny little things, literally just dogs barking. Sometimes my dogs will be in a fight with monkeys. And what I'm calling a fight, maybe they're having fun, maybe they're laughing at each other, maybe they're planning a party. And that, when I'm in a bad mood, can get me so upset. So it's literally working on those tools that always make sure that I can learn to cultivate my joy, and also being very cautious of joy has to be internal. I must learn to make myself happy. So some of those tools will be like my rituals, as I would call them, like making sure that every morning I go for a long walk with the dogs, with no phones. I have a no tech moment. I also have learned to be very intentional on not going so deep on sad stories, especially like literally guarding my peace. So there are times that what is happening is something that's beyond my control. It could be geopolitics. It could be anything that, yes, I empathize, but right now I'm going through my own stuff. So I need to take care of myself. Obviously, those habits, cultivating those things, working on my meditation, listening to good music, watching a comedy once in a while, surrounding myself with happy people, people that fulfill me, like sort of enrich my life, and gratitude. Gratitude for me is a big one. And also doing charity work. Quite often, when we think charity work, we're giving out, we receive more. It gives me that sense of, it's not that bad. It's still a beautiful life. And just getting outside and basking in the sun, breathing some fresh air. It's very nourishing. That's just but to mention a few. Thank you.
Yeah. A lot of those that you mentioned, they kind of fall under what I'm thinking of as well. One big one that I do feel like is very important is our environment, the ecosystem that we put ourselves into, and within that a lot of things fall within that, right? Our family, our work, our everyday activities, and so on and so on. I think we have to, I feel like for me, I have to choose more wiser and more carefully as to the environments I place myself in. Um, that doesn't mean that I don't like this or don't like that or prefer this, prefer that necessarily, but more so that it's it's beneficial and nurturing to my spirit, and but also that I'm able to, like you said earlier, not just in the sense of in a sense of charity, but also just as a person, you want to feel like you're contributing to wherever you are, that you don't feel um, you are not contributing, or you're not, you're not, your place there is not necessarily, you're not bringing any worth to the situation or to the place, right? So that I think also has a mental effect at the same time. I think it's an overall outlook. It's not like necessarily one thing, and also not one day. It's something that has to constantly, move you along. And then we have these personality. I'm not generally like a people's person, and as a person, we normally want to be around people, and we don't get necessarily too selective about that. Also, the observing of other people's energy. If some people I like observing of other people's energy, I happen to be one of them. Where if somebody has said, it will crush me as well. It doesn't matter how well I know you. um, so it really focusing on the entire world that we build around ourselves, in many aspects, is so important. And to, again, we speak about this quite a bit, is the power of no. And we don't have to exaggerate on that, right? It's not like no to everything, you know what I mean? And it's not no in a rude way or whatever, but just kind of saying like, my bandwidth is not able to handle this right now. My in bandwidth, there is different type of bandwidth. Your emotional bandwidth, your physical bandwidth, right? Your time bandwidth. There's so different ways of measuring your everyday being, that in some areas we have to be able to say no, right? Just because I don't have the time for you right now, it doesn't mean that you are not in my thoughts and prayers per se, right? So and kind of not, I see this a lot in social media lately, where it's really kind of dragged out, in the sense of like everything is a no, say no, it's like an anthem. So I think there need to be balance with that as well, instead of just taking that no to a different level. Just make sure that no means something to you, and it's protecting you and your peace in a way, and your health, as we will be talking about, Mr. Pala, later as well. It's very important to pause certain things as well. um, and laughter, as much as you put yourself around laughter. Be around people who like to laugh and make you laugh and whatnot, right? So I think that's very important. Let me go ahead and pass on the mic, because I feel I could go on and on and on this topic at this point.
And it's enjoyable because I think You know, the things that you're mentioning are things that seemingly look so simple, but I think it can be very difficult. And you know, the both of you mentioned guarding your peace. You know, whether you are learning to say no, or you are letting go of those things that don't serve you, and refusing to allow negative energy. Oops, I've frozen on the screen with a very strange expression. Anyway, I'm sorry. Refusing to allow negative energy into your space, so protecting your environment, it can be very difficult. And I think if I can just ask, we all have children, and the one time that it becomes very difficult to say no, to refuse, is when it's your child. And we all have those moments where you really don't want to deal with anything. You need to be out there, you know, whether you're in the grass, in the sun, wherever, and you just cannot refuse because it's your child. And we all, I believe we all feel the same way about our children. And so I want to push back a little bit and say, how do we then? Because sometimes, you know, as a mother, you are everything to your kids. You are their therapist, you are their doctor, you are their friend, and sometimes you have to be the strict parent. But how do you then guard your peace when it comes to your children? And one of the reasons I speak about children and then our young people is because we have a lot of work to do in that respect, with our young people and teaching them from a young age to nurture happiness. So what do you do? How do you push back and guard your peace when your children are in your face demanding attention? Miss Kim. Oh, Miss Grace disappeared for a minute. That's why I'm asking you, but she's back. So whoever wants to answer first.
I think that would be a good question for Miss Grace.
You're on mute.
Oops, oops. Yeah. Unlike you guys, I only have one. So it I think it makes it a little bit easier. I feel like maybe, I don't know. So, you know, that's probably my I don't know when and how I would be able to say no to my daughter or not pick up the call when I see it. It's like in a huge sense of urgencies, like, you know, where I'm in the middle of like, or I just simply don't see it. And she knows she can count on that. She knows when she calls me, especially a couple times. She knows she can call me and I will be picking up. And that's not just for my daughter, though. You know, I have some very close family members of mine that they know that as well. So when the minute I don't pick up, it's like a siren across the entire family members. Like, where is she? What is she doing? What's happening? You know what I mean? So because that's what I got them used to. Also, that's what they are used for me, um, which is, um, you know, I. It's not a bad thing. I enjoy it. Enjoy to be the reliable one on these things, you know, and to be able to pick up their calls whenever they need me, and I'm there. Um, to this topic, I think you choose the people, not necessarily. And I know we're talking about the children here, but I think equally anybody who is like close to us, like to that level. Um, you know, we have a lot of bonus moms, or you know, aunties that are like moms, or and so on and so on, who equally could have the same emotional attachment to their loved ones. And I think there is, you know, love comes with sacrifice, and that is part of it. And for me, that just means I have to say no to somebody else. It doesn't mean I have to say no to that person. So if I have this going on, something else is gonna, in my priority list, is gonna fall to the next step down, because there are just certain priorities. It's not a negotiable thing for my own sanity, peace, and, you know, well-being, as well as for theirs, because I cannot be at peace knowing I missed a call, I missed somebody, I know somebody needs me that is very dear to me, and I'm not able to answer. That leaves me very restless. So In the list of prioritization, everything else would fall below that.
Understood. Miss Kim, do you want to add anything?
I think yes. I think yes. And you see, also, sometimes we have a little bit of manipulation within our kids. Like sometimes something will be so amplified just because they know your soft spots. They know what to make you drop everything and attend to them. So it's something that I've learned to teach them. I can see you. I know this trait. You've pulled one on me before, and no, because it's a tough thing to learn how to give them tough love, but we just have to. And sometimes that's where we have to just say no and own our space and own our peace, because sometimes it can also be abused by our very own children who love us dearly, but sometimes subconsciously they get to be selfish. I always want to look at it like it was not intentional, but they knew mom would come running. And sometimes also what could be trivial to us, it's not trivial to them. And we want them to learn, no, this is life. There'll be bad days. There'll be days that you're sent home from school and I'm nowhere close by to come and pick you. And you are literally sent home because you went to school not dressed properly. So that's not my call. You wait. I'm busy. I have meetings all day long. If you can jump on public transport, do you? Or else you have to wait. Or else go explain to your teacher and get the punishment that you need to get because you tripped. So it's
And
dicey,
mm,
but they have to learn.
I think it also the age plays a big role, right? Like I think the age plays a big role. I think all of us have grown children now, um, and yeah, you know your children, and sometimes it feels like maybe they don't what you know what we feel like is amplified.
Hmm.
Sometimes for them is serious.
Yes.
They just don't have the emotional capacity that we do, and we
Yeah.
like,
Mm.
really, you crying over this, but then it's big for them, you know what I'm saying, and in that
yeah,
sense, even like from a happiness and emotional state and all that stuff, to provide that for them as well. I think we have to make sure their actual, regardless how big we think it is, it's big to
Mm.
them, and kind of just like feel like a little bit like the empathy with a bit with that a bit. You know what I mean? I guess it depends on the children and the age, like and a little bit of like discernment, kind of figuring out like, you know, where's this
it's
coming
it's a
from?
it's a it's a tough one, I think, but I agree with Miss Kim where sometimes the tough love and it helps them eventually because they realize that when you draw the line, they know that, okay, this line I cannot cross again. I've tried,
Mhm.
but I can't do it again. And, there are times when I've made decisions to be that tough mother. And believe you me, I'm cringing and crying
Mm.
inside because I'm so scared of what could happen. But I've had to do it, and it's turned out okay. And what's beautiful is when they end up showing you that they're actually more mature than you've given them credit for. But what makes it difficult, I think, in our time as opposed to our parents, because I believe our parents, their world was very much black and white. There was very little room for gray. It's you do it this way or forget it. And we were able to deal with that for the most part. I think, to Miss Grace's point, we had whatever it was that they were able to instill in
Mm.
us to enable us to
Yeah.
deal and move on. But
Mm.
nowadays, we're living in an environment where, like Miss Grace said, some of the things are such a big deal to these kids. Whereas for us, it's like, what do you mean? Take off that t-shirt. I don't want you to wear it. For them,
Yeah.
it's something huge. But for us, it's a simple thing. So it's a difficult one to navigate. But communication, I think, is something that becomes helpful. But I also think it's very important for your children to eventually learn what kind of person you are, because they then begin to respect that. and they will respect that in you. And even those times that you were that mother that they didn't understand, um, eventually they get to respect that. So anyways, I'm going to move on because I know that we can get stuck in this for a long time, especially given some of the challenges that we have to deal with today, mental health being one of them. So I want to move to the next question, which speaks to inner happiness, inner peace, and feeling completely content with life, regardless of what life throws at you. We've all had difficult times. So I want to hear from you. How have you learned to walk away from things that hurt you, from things that have upset you deeply? For me, it's something that I'm still keen on because I had an experience a couple of years ago that I believe I'm over the worst, but I still get triggered here and there. And it's been very difficult, walking away from something that has hurt you deeply. So I want to hear from you. If there has been a time where something has upset and hurt you, what is it that you did to be able to move away from it and to get back to your 90% content, if I can call it that, leaving a little bit of room for disappointment and anger and frustration? Miss Grace?
Yeah, at the first part you used the word completely, and I think there is not such a thing in my book. I don't think there is such a thing as completely being at peace all the time and things like that. I think there is a balance of things, and balancing is to try to avoid as much as you can that does that disturbs your peace. Um, and prioritize like what are you going to allow in, like we just talked about children, you know what I'm saying, and like that is going to be part of, for most of us, that we gonna allow to disturb us. Um and we don't even have the emotional strength, I'm going to use this word, to say no sometimes because of the love and attachment we have to them. So I think completely is, in my book, very difficult to achieve, if not at all, to me. I don't know if there's anybody who does, but my hat's off to them. But um, it also makes it sound almost like, to me, and I could be wrong here, but it's like you don't have emotions, because if you're completely at peace, then you're shutting out everything that is like out of pain and out of distraction and you know and all that stuff. I'm thinking like, and even just anxiety and issues, whatever the thing that may cause you, that comes from the external, and sometimes even internal, right? The dissatisfaction with whatever is going on with you, which I feel like is a totally different topic, but sometimes also we are not, disturbed from external things. We also from inner peace that we don't have, whatever that may be, that is bugging us about ourselves. Maybe I need to be good at this, or I need to do this, or things like that, right? And I think those may be areas that we can control much better, and then that will then also externally express other contentment and peace. I may have like thrown out a few things, but the bottom line for me is to prioritize and scale things to in a way that is actually going to provide you that more peaceful atmosphere within your life, versus having the high expectation of like everything needs to be completely um, at peace. If that makes sense, am I making sense?
You are making sense, and I agree with you. I think it's extremely difficult unless you're living on an island somewhere and you have no access to news, right?
And then I
But
feel like even then your loneliness and your I don't know, even then you will be your own creator of disturbance.
yes, no, and I agree with you on that one. But there are people who are able to maintain happiness is something that they are in a state of happiness most of the time. Okay, so that's what I'm getting at, where it doesn't matter what comes at you, you're able to bounce back almost immediately. And there are people who have achieved that. So you can throw anything at them, and it may take them a day or two, depending on what it is, but they always bounce back. And you always see them as, joyful people. And yes, sometimes maybe there are things going on that they don't show. But there are people like that who are able to somehow they manage the pain. And so that's what I'm asking. My question was, how do you let go of the things that hurt you? Because one of the things about being consistently happy is you have to have the ability to let things go. You have to be able to walk away from things. Sometimes it's difficult. It's almost like we feed off whatever energy comes from the anger that we feel. So what I'm asking is, how do you let go of that anger? Because I think letting go of things is one of the ways in which you build a sense of contentment. And it may not be 100% all the time. You know who I think about when I think about people who are content? I think about people who've given their lives to God and who live in monasteries. I think of the nuns and the monks who, I think, it's perception, that they are content because they have chosen a certain way of life and they practice that day in and day out. And yes, maybe they receive news about different things that's happening, but they're still able to get back to that state of contentment. And being content doesn't necessarily mean, okay, now I'm beginning to complicate things. But so that's my question, Miss Grace, is if we can talk about that. What do you do to let things go? Those things that hurt you and have upset you. What have you done for yourself in a situation where you felt really hurt and upset about something?
I think one way to do that is to remove yourself out of the situation. Um, and there are pros and cons to that. But if depending on again prioritizing the environment and relationships that you are in, is you just remove yourself from that situation and focus your energy elsewhere that is going to give you that peace and contentment. Um, when I was younger, I had this friend of mine. They used to call me. I had this nickname, Sunshine, and this particular friend of mine, she used to call me. She used to say, "If I didn't know you, I would assume you have the most perfect life. You're always happy. You're always laughing. You're always giggly. You're and you know that was obviously not true. We all have our struggles and whatnot, but it's just a perception that she had of me. And I observe, I guess for me as a person, if I'm around people that are cheery and happy, I'm going to dwell in that as well. And my spirit is going to be lifted up. I have this thing that I say in many rooms that I am at is energy is transferable. And I know that at firsthand. I always say this, and you guys may have heard me say that as well, as energy is transferable. So it will transfer over to other people. Some people can bounce it off better than others. I personally observe other people's energy too much. That's something that I am constantly always trying to work on. And again, because I know myself, I remove myself from negative energy.
Thank you. And it's an interesting one. Thank you, Miss Grace. So removing yourself from negative energy and not allowing it to get anywhere near you, but also to choose your environment carefully.
Right.
Miss Kim, I'm going to ask you to answer the same. And then I've just looked at the watch and I'm shocked that it's already 10 minutes to 6. I know that we're supposed to have a 1-hour podcast and then allow, but maybe answer this question and then let's see, maybe we need to now get into talking about Miss Paula, but please let me know, what do you do to walk away from things that hurt you and make you angry, Miss Kim? What have you done? What tools do you use to bring back
Thank you.
Emma?
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Paula. It's a journey, and it's like I liked it when you mentioned. My goodness, they
You
just call
just
you Miss Paula. Okay,
yes, you did. I know we all miss her so much.
and if you guys didn't laugh, I was just gonna move on. Okay, thank you, Miss Judith. And so this is something I think this is why I like always emphasizing or working on my tools, constantly working on my tools, because when the chips are down, that's where I go back to and dig. As I adult, wow, I like saying that. That sounds like I'm a teenager. I'm just adulting, right? So as I adult, I'm learning to embrace pain, grief, and allow myself to go through it. They were in my early days, in my 20s, 30s, I used to sweep it under the carpet and move on. But I've seen when you sweep it under the carpet, it might come back later to haunt you. So, what I'm trying to learn to do is to confront pain, to live with it, to allow myself to grieve, and to also build onto my bouncing back and just get to know to be very kind to myself, whether I contributed to the pain that's there or it's something beyond me. I always feel we have to take responsibility and do something about the situation we find ourselves into. Some of the recent encounters was I think I mentioned last time. I think it's my recent heavy pain that I'm still trying to come to terms to. When I visited the slaves dungeon in Ghana like a month ago, that chipped a lot in me. My first experience was I felt empty. I felt hollow. I felt like, what's the purpose of living? Do I need to be here? What have I done if my ancestors went through this? Am I dignifying their pain? Am I living a purposeful life? Am I changing the narrative? Am I making this place better for the next generation? Am I condoning what they did or am I perpetuating that pain? And working out of that place, I was like, I couldn't move. And I was with a team of people, only one person I knew, the others we just met there were strangers. And we were all transfixed, like literally, you walk out of the slaves' dungeon, the, the door of no return, you're facing the sea, and you're motionless. And the guard is so nice, feels your energy. You're not even talking to each other. You're just like numb, like they just go through that. And I reached out and I told them, can we hold hands and just pray? So it's one of the things I'm working on my spiritual journey. Because I have encountered that before where when I'm in at my deepest, when I call out for peace, that thing, what they call, I can't even explain it, but that peace that transcends human understanding. I have felt that peace. Several encounters, and it might sound very strange. I don't want to, I don't want to scare you guys, but there's a wave that comes. Some peace that I just go like, yeah, you can see another day. It's okay. It happened. How can we change this? I felt the same. This feeling. The first time I encountered it was when I lost my mom. I was at a very very dark place, extremely dark, and I knew my mom was dying. My mom was very sick, like for a whole 1 year. It was every day waking up waiting for news, but I couldn't deal with my mom is not here. I was literally what you call grief stricken. I mourned my mom, and I allowed myself to mourn my mom. But there was that wave of peace that came. And I felt like some pain was lifted and something was telling me, I'm here, my child. We're gonna go through this journey. So recently from Ghana, I was heavy for like 2, 3 days. I did a lot of praying, I was meditating, I was trying to do things that I go back to get my peace so that I can smile again. Because I think I can call myself naturally a very happy person. I go through Nairobi, and it's something that I always feel every time the plane is landing. I get very emotional because the whole feeling of my mom would be calling me, my mom would be waiting for me. I grieve my mom again, which I've allowed myself. It's okay. This may never end. Maybe I'll always grieve my mom. The pain is different. I don't cry as I used to. I now think about, I'll see beautiful things. I'll talk to her, and I've allowed myself, like, she's here. I was very heavy. So all your siblings are at the airport waiting for you. It's 6 in the morning, but you're crying like a little child. To an extent, I was actually embarrassed. You don't get home and you're crying. I was crying like I was uncontrollable. And so I leave. So they're all there. It's cold. Nairobi is cold at night and mornings. And then there's this little 5-year-old child that I had not seen before, that one of my sisters adopted. My sisters all, we are like the same age group. So we all have big children. So this is the first like little grandchild. She's never seen me. She comes running to me, embracing me. And that really gave me that sense of, my mom is here. This is my mom. So it might sound a bit like she's losing it, but I felt that wave again. That thing of, look, it's still a beautiful life. So I constantly try, when I'm feeling heavy, when I'm mourning, I also try to remind myself of all the beautiful things that have happened to me. I try to go back to gratitude. And one of the things that I always remember is, there are few people, and I say it with humility, that in their 50s don't have any specific specialized doctors they see. So that's one thing that I'm always like, 50, no BP, no this and that. What else am I complaining about? I need to be grateful, right? So I'm always like, there's always that little light. There's always something for us to be grateful for. And that gives me the ability to go through the pain, whatever I could be mourning. And just acknowledging this is life, there'll be pain, and it's okay. Thank you. That's a mouthful.
Thank you, Ms. Kim, and thank you for sharing. I know that I don't think there's anything worse than losing someone that you love and you depend on for so many things. So I think we both understand, that grief. I think what I find interesting is you said allowing yourself to feel the pain and to go through it. But you also said in the same sentence, almost, be kind to yourself. You'd almost think that being kind to yourself would mean avoiding the pain and doing everything you can not to think about it. But in fact, you're right, because you're just prolonging. You're prolonging the time that you're spending on grieving in a painful way. And I agree that the grief doesn't stop, but it becomes different. And what happens instead over time is you replace it with the memories. And then the number one, and this one I agree with you, is gratitude. I think my fallback every single day is to express out loud my gratitude for what is good in my life. And now to learn how to deal with those things that are not so good in my life. So, and it's, but gratitude always places me in a better place. And for that, always eternally grateful for those people who consistently express that you have to be grateful. And the prayer, Miss Kim, there are people that I know who, when they pray, you can feel the peace that goes over them. And I know Miss Grace, goes to church. There's something about the way in which people pray that energy for me is transferable, Miss Grace, to use your words. So watching people in prayer and keeping very still and then eventually slipping into your own prayer does help you to deal with some of the issues. So thank you both so much for your contributions and the tools, because you've shared some tools, and I'm hoping that folks who've joined us will be able to think about it and perhaps apply the same. We don't have a lot of time. In fact, it's 6 o'clock. I know that we started a little bit late. We've been live now for almost 45 minutes. So let's spend the time that we have. Okay, I see from Miss Grace that she needs to go. I don't know if you need to go immediately or if I can ask you to please speak very quickly about our retreat, why we think, not why, what it is that we're planning to do to help folks find space, time, and the energy to go away and rebuild, re-energize, etc. Or do you need to go immediately? I can pass it on to Miss Kim.
Miss Kim, will you take that on today? Thank you, guys. I
Okay.
appreciate it. You
Thank
guys
you,
have.
Miss Grace. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay,
Thank you
then.
so much.
Take care. Enjoy the day. Okay. All right, Miss Kim. It's you and me. I think what we'll do is let's spend the next 10 minutes. It's 6 o'clock. But we really have about 15 minutes if we want to do a full hour. And what I'd wanted Miss Grace to talk about a little bit was one of the things that we are planning as the Happiness Tribe is a retreat. We want to be able to organize something that will help folks do a number of things. And of course, happiness is something that we're consistently deliberate about and what we talk about every week. But can you talk a little bit about the retreat that we're planning for next year? And
Yes.
and thank you, Miss Kim. Over to you.
Thank you. So, yeah, we have a retreat. My goodness, suddenly I'm left alone. What is happening? Okay. So, we have an upcoming retreat. And why we do these retreats as the Happiness Tribe, we understand that joy needs cultivation. It's not enough to say, I'm going to seek happiness, but you also need to be in that enabling environment for you to cultivate that joy. And obviously, in a world that's full of so much noise, a lot of hectic stuff that we go through every day, it's important for us to put a pause button. So now, this retreat, we also understand that a lot of us, life has forced us to be constantly on technology, working 24/7, burning the midnight oil. This is a moment for us just to put a pause on everything. It's a no tech retreat. You won't be on your phones, you will not be on social media, you're not gonna be on any of your gadgets. You'll be allowed to come with your gadgets, but you're gonna pack them and leave them in the hotel room. There'll be a lot of outdoor activities, and we have also looked at a very exotic place where you will heal, rejuvenate yourself, feel different, eat fresh food, breathe fresh air, wake up every day and look at the blue sky, swim in a warm ocean, do a mud wrap, meditate, do seaweed farming, lots of beautiful activities, including swimming with the dolphins and corals. So this is going to be in one of the, I think for so many times it was rated as the world best destination for tourism. I should be putting a clue. Our listeners, who wants to guess where that is? So this is going to be in East Africa and specifically in Zanzibar. Zanzibar is beautiful. It's a place I learned to call home. It's a place when I started going there as an adult, it became so difficult for me to leave that place. The warmth, the spirit of the people, the food, especially I think the food, honestly. They have the best food. I mean, it's along the tropics, so you'll enjoy fresh food for breakfast, fresh fruits for breakfast. And I'm a big fan of fruits. And they seem to have fresh fruits all year through, like mangoes. I think it's because of the warmth of the place, or they're able to get them from Tanzania, which also has a lot of fruits. And besides that, just that journey of being in that environment that you can heal, that you can start getting that joy, cultivating that joy that we all have within us. But as we get knocked by this and that in life, sometimes you get to be a little bit grumpy. So get set, join us. We have a waiting list. You can book. We are only taking 30 people because it's going to be very intimate. Lots of fun, lots of activities. You're going to make new friends. And just most important, just doing a reset button, and cultivating joy. That's a big thing. It's healing. It's a healing expedition, if I might call it that. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Kim. And if I can add, every time I go to a new place, there's something about being in a new environment. It helps if there's the ocean close by. But
Mhm.
seeing the way people live, seeing the different ways in which people express happiness. We were just talking about happiness and being content. It it re-energizes me. It gives me something different to think about. And I think that would be one reason why you'd sign up to come to Zanzibar. I've never been and very excited for it. It's got a lot of history, very interesting history where people have come together from different places, some forced, others willing. But it just sounds like such a wonderful and beautiful place that I'm looking forward to that. So if you have any questions, please feel free to visit us on our LinkedIn and share the questions that you may have. And we will continue to talk about it and sharing more detail as the time comes closer. So thank you, Ms. Kim, for sharing that with our listeners. And then before we go, I had mentioned earlier that the Happiness Tribe is comprised of 5 individuals, and one of them is Miss Paula. And for those of you who've been coming to our podcast, you would remember Miss Paula. And one thing that's very clear about her, it doesn't matter what she may be going through. Miss Paula always shows up, and she shows up with 100% attention to whatever it is that we are discussing, bringing her best and giving us of her best every single time we're together. We miss having her on the show with us, but feel free to explore some of the previous podcasts. Again, I want to hand over to Miss Kim to talk about that a little bit. And we are in the process of preparing how we're going to support Miss Paula in this difficult part of her life at this time. But we'd like to bring others along with us so that we can do what we need to do to ensure that Miss Paula is back 100% healthy and happy. So, Miss Kim, if you could please share some of those details with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Judith. So, what we're going to do as the Happiness Tribe, and all our listeners, you're also part of us, we're going to dedicate the next episodes and every workshop we do, everything else to Miss Paula's healing. So, most important, it's a call to every one of you. Let's pray for Miss Paula. If you're able to reach out to her, if you want to reach out to her through us, we're happy. And if you don't, you can't, you don't have to talk to her for you to pray for her. Let's pray for her. That's one of the most important things she needs. She needs to find peace in her sickness and she needs to find healing. So I urge you all, let's pray for Miss Paula. Let's be the happiness tribe that we are. Now, the next thing is we're going to be doing some initiatives to raise funds to meet her hospital bills. And one of them will be running workshops that will request you with humility to contribute to those workshops. You'll get details in the next few days. Please be a part of that. Join us, come learn, and at the same time contribute towards a noble cause. Everything that's contributed will be dedicated to Miss Paula, including all our podcasts, all our resources that we market as well, anything that we're promoting. It's a dedication to her healing. So, 2 things we request for: be a team player, join us with our upcoming events. You'll get them in the course of the week, and also pray for Miss Paula. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Kim. On that note, I think we've come to the end of our podcast for this Sunday. And we'd like to encourage everyone to please go to our LinkedIn page. And like I said, explore some of the things that we've been doing, but also to look out for information on what we're going to be doing to support Ms. Paula. If you have missed This podcast and any other, you will find it uploaded on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to visit the YouTube channel as well. And then if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, we'd really appreciate hearing from you. So please do contact us. On that, Ms. Kim, thank you so much. It's been a good conversation. And, you know, I think I had a total of 7 questions. We only did 2. And because the conversation is so rich, there's so much to talk about. But one of the questions that I really would like to explore, depending on what the tribe feels, is what are we saying to our youth about happiness? What is it that we need to share with them now so that they start cultivating that and prioritizing that above anything else, including money? So I'm hoping that we will find an opportunity to talk about that in one of our future podcasts. But we will share what the subject will be for the following podcast on our page in the next few days. So thanks again for joining us. Please take good care and have a wonderful, peaceful week ahead. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and have a lovely evening and a super week. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Judith.